5, 4, 3, 2, 1. November the 11th, 1983. There is one hospital bed remaining for every 250 injured Americans, and there is just one surviving burn specialist for 45,000 burn victims. Many hospitals are operating without power, since the effects of electromagnetic pulse have rendered their emergency generators useless. Doctors and nurses are forced to triage patients by their likelihood of survival. Thousands of Americans begin leaving urban areas in search of shelter and healthcare, exposing themselves to the ongoing fallout. November the 12th, 1983. Egypt, Jordan and Syria declare war on Israel. In South Africa, riots against the apartheid government have erupted in Cape Town and Pretoria. In areas exposed to fallout, many survivors are experiencing nausea and vomiting. Most older Americans in the northern plains have already died as a result of fallout exposure. Even in unaffected areas, hunger and emotional shock are almost universal. From the Greenbrier bunker, President Reagan signs the Build Back Better executive order. Armed forces and the National Guard move into target areas to distribute food, restore services, and hold back the flood of Mexican refugees fleeing border cities which were targeted. November the 13th, 1983. The average temperature in the continental United States has fallen by 5 degrees centigrade since the watershed. About 90% of fallout has reached the ground. The rest is carried by the jet stream and deposited across the globe over the next several months. November the 21st, 1983. Fog covers the oceans, while the interiors of North America and Eurasia are covered in a thick smog. Conventional fighting continues in Germany, although the front has barely moved since the watershed, as soldiers on both sides have lost the will to fight. November the 26th, 1983. Iraq, Iran, and Libya join the war against Israel. North Korean forces have assumed some degree of control in the south. China has collapsed into civil war, with Tibet, Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia all declaring independence. November the 27th, 1983. Reagan and Gorbachev sign a mutual ceasefire agreement. November the 28th, 1983. To preempt similar ethnic conflicts in its own territory, the Central Committee votes to dissolve the Soviet Union, with each constituent republic being granted independence. December the 1st, 1983. Nuclear winter reaches its peak, with average temperatures in the northern hemisphere at 10 degrees centigrade below seasonal. December the 2nd, 1983. President Reagan issues the death rattle executive order. December the 5th, 1983. President Nolan dissolves the United States of America following Reagan's assassination. March 1984. Crop failures are starting to have global repercussions. India falls into civil war. After successfully defeating Israel, the Arab nations turn on each other for food and other resources once provided by the West. Taiwanese forces have also joined the Second Chinese Civil War. April 1984. Several Latin American militaries have started raiding former ports on the Pacific and Gulf coasts in search of food, raw materials, and agricultural equipment. June 1984. An estimated 30 million Japanese have died of starvation since the watershed. Cannibalism has become commonplace out of necessity. July the 4th, 1984. The United States of America is re-established from survivor communities in Utah, Western Canada, and the Pacific Northwest. October 1984. The leading causes of death in North America are dysentery, food poisoning, diarrhea, typhoid, influenza, pneumonia, and starvation. The former United States population bottoms out at around 30 million, while Europe's population has fallen to medieval levels. October 1986. The Northern Hemisphere has returned to pre-watershed temperatures. December the 1st, 1989. The Watershed Research Foundation and Western Cultural Heritage Foundation are founded jointly by the governments of Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, New England and New America. These organizations are devoted to studying the watershed for posterity and to preserving the cultural legacies of Europe and North America. 1995. The nationalists win the Second Chinese Civil War, successfully invading Manchuria and the whole of Mongolia in the process. 2005. China is now the undisputed world superpower and now encompasses Korea, Japan, Indochina, Siberia and the Philippines. Australia, New Zealand, Brazil and Argentina form the League of Nations as a counterbalance to Chinese expansion.